Thank you for joining us today for another edition of Conversations with AARP in the Virgin Islands. I'm your host, Troy deChabert-Schuster, State Director for AARP in this territory. In today's episode, we turn our attention to an area that stands at the core of AARP's mission, that is, supporting those who dedicate their lives to caring for their loved ones. In other words, caregivers. Caregiving is not just an act of love. It is a commitment that touches every facet of our community. Recognizing the impact of caregivers, we must find ways to provide them with common sense solutions and guidance to help them as they navigate the caregiving journey. At the same time, helping older Americans live within the lines of this mission. We have collaborated with key stakeholders, namely the Uniform Law Commission, to help bring meaningful legislation to the Virgin Islands that supports our caregivers and ensures a more just system for all. Today, we have invited attorney Tom Bolt, a longtime Virgin Islands attorney and a dedicated commissioner of the Uniform Law Commission in the United States, tasked with overseeing our territory to discuss efforts that have led to introducing legislation to reform the guardianship system in the Virgin Islands. Our conversation today will center around a long-standing effort to enact the Uniform Guardianship, Conservatorship, and Other Protective Arrangements Act, otherwise referred to as UGCOPA, here in the Virgin Islands. This proposed legislation represents a pivotal moment in our quest to reform the guardianship system, offering guardians, who are often the primary caregivers, a pathway with support, clarity, and dignity for their loved ones. Stay tuned as we share the details of the proposed legislation, explore its benefits, and discuss how it will reshape the guardianship system to better serve the needs of older Virgin Islanders and their families. Now, we welcome attorney Tom Bolt to the show. Welcome, attorney Bolt.
It's good to be with you, Troy. Always, and I enjoy working with AARP to advance jurisprudence in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Great, thank you. It's always a pleasure to work with you. You've been a great partner of AARP for many years now, certainly for the more than 8 years that I've been in this position, and we really value your partnership. So you work with us under the banner primarily of the Uniform Law Commission. So tell us, what is the Uniform Law Commission and what does it do?
Well, the Uniform Law Commission was started about 130 years ago, and it was the way our government is structured in the United States is that there are certain powers that are granted to the federal government, and those that are not granted to the federal government are reserved unto the states. And so but then again, it helps to have some uniformity with regard to state law when you're crossing state lines and are dealing with a particular subject matter in more than one jurisdiction. You buy a car in Florida and you ship it to the Virgin Islands. I mean, so our sales law, we have a uniform commercial code, which people are familiar with. I mean, there are other numerous uniform acts. And today we're talking about guardianship, conservatorships, and other protective arrangements. And this is in the Uniform Probate Code. We've already adopted a number of Uniform Probate Code acts. We have the definition section, Article 1. We also have non-probate transfers. And this is dealing specifically with guardianships. Now, this is not to be confused with the earlier, we had adopted the UGAPSHA, if you will, which is the Uniform Guardianship and Protective Proceedings Jurisdiction Act. And that was just briefly on that act was where someone lives in the Virgin Islands, but they have kids that are in Texas, New York, DC, and one comes in and picks up their mother and takes them to Texas or whatever. And then another child takes them to DC. But I mean, basically, they are Virgin Islanders, and Virgin Islands law should apply. And that was what that act was about, is which court would have jurisdiction. This new act, the Uniform Guardianship, Conservatorship, and Other Protective Arrangements Act, is a very it's a new act, and it is now before the legislature, the 35th legislature. Senator Novell Francis has offered it and is sponsoring it. It's bill number 350174. That's bill number 350174. And it is dramatically revises the guardianship laws. You may not need a guardianship. Many people have called me, usually children, and say, "Oh, we need a guardianship for dad, or we need a guardianship for mother," and that may not necessarily be the case. And what this act does is tries to give the least restrictive arrangement to allow the for not necessarily guardianship, but it may be what we're calling now these protective arrangements, and so that it can be as limited as possible. It may be just for a specific transaction, such as the sale of a house or something. But if that's and also another thing with this act is at all times that you must take the view of the person that you're acting on behalf of, not necessarily what's in the best interest of the kids or of the senior, but in their interest, what's in the best interest of the person that you're taking guardianship for or conservatorship. And so that's what they're looking for. Now, one of the things I think that we should highlight here, a little education, and that is the term guardian, which refers to a person that's appointed by the court to make decisions about the care and well-being of another person. This could be a minor, it could be an adult person, but or a person that is disabled. But then there's the term conservator, and the conservator that refers to a person that's appointed by a court to manage the property of another person. So those are two definite or different headings that people need to understand: guardianship and conservatorship.
Wow, that's a lot to take in, and very important information. Going back to the previous one, the Uniform Adult Guardianship and Protective Proceedings Jurisdiction Act. I remember just before I became state director of AARP in the Virgin Islands, that was repealed. And then in my position as state director, in my capacity, I worked with you, we brought it back with some modifications, and it became law. But I remember just before it came before the legislature, one of our sitting senators at that time called me under great distress because a Virgin Islander had taken her adult son who had a severe mental illness to the mainland for treatment. And because this law was not in place, it was not law here, she lost guardianship there in the mainland. And her son was able to sign himself out and took to the streets of Alabama, and she couldn't get him back. She had totally lost guardianship. And so we rushed this through the legislature. It became law in the Virgin Islands, and she was able to reestablish the guardianship of her son, even in Alabama, and was able to get him back into treatment, keep him safe from the streets, and then was able to bring him back to St. Croix, back to his home. So that's just a real concrete example of how important that measure was and how it worked for a Virgin Island family, so that she could regain custody of her son, guardianship of her son, and not literally lose him to the streets of Alabama forever. God knows what could have happened to him out there, you know? So I'm really happy that we got that through. And now looking forward to moving this Uniform Guardianship, Conservatorship, and Other Protective Arrangements Act, COPA, another very important one. And so would you say that a COPA then is the finishing touch on guardianship, or do we need to do more with the guardianship code here in the Virgin Islands?
No, I think this will be the finishing touch on guardianship, and introduces, as I said, some new concepts like limited guardianships. It requires that we have to have an individual analysis on how will this impact the person for who we are seeking this guardianship or limited guardianship, and is it the most least restrictive uh, uh, for that person?
Well, great. So then once this becomes law, then we will have completely reformed the guardianship code here in the Virgin Islands. And we are almost finished reforming the probate code. We've done a lot of work on that. You mentioned the non-probate acts, and there are many. And I think the greatest one of all is the Real Property Transfer on Death Act. Can you tell us
TOD, real property,
Yes.
and that has become a very popular act. In fact, it was so popular that the 35th, I think, or it's the 34th or 35th legislature enacted similar legislation based on the TOD real property for motor vehicles, so that you can now say, okay, upon my promotion to glory, I'd like so and so to have my sports car or whatever you might have, whatever car you have. But no, it's because for years, what's happened is that Virgin Islanders were told, well, you don't want to go to probate. I mean, that's the worst thing you can do. You need a trust. Everybody needs a trust. I mean, every week someone calls me and says, oh, we need a trust. Well, you may not. I mean, I'm all for lawyers, and but when you need them, but there is a way with this TOD Real Property Act where basically the individual can say, okay, upon my passing, I would like this property to go to this child or this person or my children. And you can at any time prior to your death pull them off of that deed. Unlike if you had already transferred the property, because that was another thing that a lot of seniors had done was, okay, I just want to put my kid's name on my the deed to my home. Well, the problem that we saw was that after Maryland, and then after Irma and Maria, when people needed a SBA FEMA loan to improve their house, a number of children did not agree to that because they were then part owner of this senior's home. And they said, well, I don't want to be responsible for this mortgage. I'm not going to sign for it. And it created a major problem. Well, with the TOD real property, they don't own anything. They don't have anything to do with the property until such time as you pass. And again, I like to go back to one of the sayings that I've heard some parents say, I brought you into this world and I can take you out. Well, they could do the same thing with the TOD real property deed.
Exactly. And that's really important to make sure that the owner has control of the property right up to the point of their death, as long as they have the mental, the cognitive capacity to do so. And going back again to the vehicle transfer on death, That's not only for motor vehicles, actually, it also applies to aircraft and watercraft. So, a
Well,
lot of
I don't
people,
know about you, Troy. I don't have an airplane, nor do I have a yacht. But I guess it could, but I've not had that. I mean, mostly it's my clients are dealing with just the regular family car.
right, right. But there are a lot of
You
boats out
going in
there.
a higher circuit than me? I tell you, you are.
But there are a lot of boats out there, and people do have to worry about that too. And for the real property transfer on death deed, just for our listening and viewing audience, that should be done through the recorder of deeds.
Mhm.
The recorder of deeds does recommend that you get an attorney to help you to fill out the form to make sure it's all done the right way. The transfer of vehicle on death is a much simpler form, and you can find that form on the website of our local Bureau of Motor Vehicles. And you download it, fill it out, print it up, and you can take it right into the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, and they will register it. And then upon your death, whoever is named on that will just simply come in with that document and their ID, the government issued ID, and the vehicle will be transferred to that person. Really, really, really easy. And so I'm so glad that we have this in place, and other similar acts regarding financial instruments, regarding fiduciary assets. I mean, digital assets, etc. We've done so much to reform the probate code, and you can find a lot of this information on AARP's webpage at www.aarp.org/VI. We have lots of information on each one of these acts, so our listening and viewing audience can go there and read and learn about it. You can always contact us also at our AARP office, and we can help to answer questions regarding these issues for you. And always, stay tuned to what we're doing here in the Virgin Islands with regard to our advocacy. And so, Tom, now tell us about what you do as a Uniform Law Commissioner. We talked about the Uniform Law Commission, but you are the Uniform Law Commissioner for the VI. Tell us, so what is your role? What are your
Well,
duties as a Uniform
I'm
Law
one of
Commissioner?
the three current commissioners. I'm joined by Yvonne Tharps, who has served as counsel to the legislature, uh, and also by Amos W. Carty Jr., who serves as chief legislative counsel. And we work together. The Uniform Law Commission, the national organization, which you have commissioners that are appointed for all 50 states, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. Um, and the um, interesting thing about this, and this is the power of the Virgin Islands, the state of California has millions and millions of people are living in California. But when it comes to the Uniform Law Commission, California has, when we vote on the various acts that are approved for submittal to the states and territories, California has one vote and the Virgin Islands has one vote. So there's the power of the Virgin Islands that we have with only 100,000 people, the same strength as California, Texas, New York, and we have been quite active over the years with respect to the Uniform Law Commission. And so then we enact these with the National Commission, and then we bring those that we feel are applicable and could be utilized in the Virgin Islands. As you mentioned, that we are currently working on the Uniform Probate Code. We also I serve also as the chair of the Probate Law Committee of the Virgin Islands Bar Association. And so we have just completed work on Articles 2, 3, and 4, which is wills, descent and distribution, and the administration of that to try and streamline the probate code. I mean, I know that a number of the viewers here are concerned about the probate system, and so we have addressed that, and hopefully that will be coming to the 35th legislature in the near future.
And added to that, the power of AARP. At AARP, we have a very, very close relationship with the Uniform Law Commission. We work closely with Attorney Benjamin Orzeski, the Chief Counsel of the Uniform Law Commission. We meet with him on a regular basis. And as a matter of fact, he will be testifying virtually on this act that will be heard next month. So we're very pleased about our relationship with the Uniform Law Commission and with you and the other uniform law commissioners here in the territory, and together we're making a great impact. So we still have
Well,
a
not
lot.
only that, but the also the national AARP organization. We have annual legislative summit, and AARP features prominently there. They've sent their representatives to that meeting, and at the annual meeting of the Uniform Law Commission, AARP is there too. But no, Troy, I'm like, I'm an AARP member, but heaven knows I don't pick up an AARP magazine that they're not telling me, oh, here's what they're doing in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Every issue I see something else that's going on in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and I do commend you for all the good work that AARP does in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I have a great team, and it's such a wonderful privilege and an honor to work for this great nationwide or national organization and be able to create such a difference in our own home. Oftentimes people get jobs with national organizations, but they can't impact the Virgin Islands because they just don't have that kind of a reach here. But AARP enables us, empowers us really to make this kind of impact here, and it's really, really very significant and just a wonderful honor and a privilege to serve my home. And again, thanks so much to my team. And so, looking forward into the future now, beyond probate and beyond guardianship, what do you see on the horizon?
Well, we've got a number of issues that are there before us. The Uniform Commercial Code needs updating. We are the only jurisdiction under the American flag that doesn't have Article 9, the 2010 amendments. Where all 50 states, District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, all have the 2010 Article 9 on secured transactions, but we do not, and we need to do that. There are also other developments with regard to the Uniform Commercial Code. Our corporate code needs updating. And there's some provisions of that need updated. Our landlord-tenant law is antiquated, and we need updates with that. We also have our condominium law is another that where we have we have a 1957 act that is like an FHA Uniform Act from 1957. We used it when we put the code together, or those that wrote that and our first Virgin Islands code, and so that's very antiquated. So we have a Uniform Common Interest Ownership Act that needs to be enacted, and then also the Uniform Trust Code. The trust code that we have in the Virgin Islands, I believe, is from like 1934. I mean, we need to adopt the updated Uniform Trust Code. it is so. I mean, those are just a few of the acts that um, we should be looking towards.
Yeah, as I'm here listening to you, I'm thinking of other ways that we can partner with you because we at AARP, we're doing a lot of work regarding housing all around the country, and especially here in the Virgin Islands. So, with regard to landlord tenant issues, with regard to condominiums, I'm here thinking about the trust code because that also goes sort of hand in hand with the probate reform. So yeah, so we have a lot of work to do moving into the future, stuff that's certainly in our wheelhouse in AARP, and ways in which our work can intersect.
And maybe,
So
we could even think about some kind of legislative summit with AARP, and let's, and have members or leadership decide what are the important things, and we could work together on those.
wonderful, wonderful. Another great idea. So here in our show, we're coming up with lots of plans and ideas for the future.
Hmm.
Excellent. So, anything else you'd have to tell us about this upcoming piece of legislation in the last couple of minutes that we have?
Well, I mean, again, it's a least restrictive is what is the least restrictive alternative? It also it guarantees that someone would have uh, rights to visitation and communications. I mean, again, what I've seen a number of times is that one child will restrict, if they become guardian, they restrict the parent from talking with or communicating with another sibling or something. That cannot be done. I mean, under this new act. It advises people have to be advised of their rights. It Just a number of things, but and the biggest thing is it's person centered planning that you have to adopt if you're going to do a guardianship, that there has to be a plan for that guardianship. It's just not like, well, here's the guardianship for this person. I mean, the courts are going to ask, is this really necessary, or do we need to just do a very small area needs to be taken care of, the least restrictive, to give freedom and of action to those that someone is seeking guardianship for.
Excellent. Well, we're out of time. Thanks so much, Attorney Bolt, for being with us on the show today, and we look forward to great things with regard to reforming the VI code. Thanks so much. Have a great
Thank
day.
you.